In today's video, we're going to be talking about the lab rubies, what you should look for, what to avoid, how do they compare to the natural rubies, and the most important things, how are they made. You see, in case of the natural rubies, it's extremely important where are they coming from which region. Are they coming from Mozambique? Are they coming from Myanmar or Sri Lanka? In case of the lab stones, it's very important how are they made, because that's going to affect the look of it, the color of it, and the inclusions as well. Whether you look for the ethical engagement ring or you exploring the alternative, this guy is going to help you to make confident decision. First of all, let's talk about the quality of the rubies. And if you didn't know, the rubies are technically sapphires with a lot of chromium in it. That's what gives it a red color. And the color itself is the most important characteristic of the ruby. And you want to look for the rich, vivid red. And in case of the natural stones, that's the whole task. You really need to go through everything and allocate pretty significant budget for it. In the case of the lab stones, we are very lucky. Most of the lab ruby is going to try to match this Burmese pigeon blood red color, which is ideal for the rubies and the most valuable one, but at the same time, you're going to have the slight variation here and there. Most of the time in the lab stone, you're not going to have any yellowish, greenish, brownish tones, the one that you're going to have naturally in the natural stones, and that definitely saves a lot of time and money. Most of the time, the hue of the lab ruby is going to be perfect. There is going to be no additional yellow or brownish inclusions as in the natural stone, so there is not much to worry about here. Next factor is the quality, and most of the lab stones going to surpass the natural one in this case. And some of the lab ruby is going to be completely clear with no inclusions whatsoever, and some of the lab stones going to have the inclusions. That's where people's opinions get separated. Some prefer completely clear stone, and some prefer the one with the inclusions that mimic the natural stone. And later on, we're going to talk about the growth method. In that part, I will explain why there is such a variety. Next quality factor that we're looking for is the cut and shape. And in case of the lab stone, we are in a much better situation than with the natural stone, because in the natural stones, you're trying to save as much material as possible, make the stone as bigger as possible. And if you are on the budget, you will have to cut the corners. In case of the lab stone, the price is not that much different from, let's say, 1 carat to 1.5 carat. So it doesn't make sense to save the material. Perfect cut, I mean that the depth of the stone is going to be around 60-70% or so. So it's not too shallow, not too deep. You don't want the shallow stone because it's going to be quite foggy, not going to have the color. And you don't want it to be too deep, it's going to be too dark. And the ratio is going to be ideal as well. You need to look specifically at the shape that you're shopping for. For example, if you're shopping for the oval ruby, in this case, you want to look at the ratio between 1.3, 1.5, somewhere there, depending how long you want your stone to be. Again, in case of the natural stone, we are limited here. We're trying to figure out the perfect balance between the beauty of the stone and the price of it. In case of the lab stone, we don't need to worry that much about the color, so you can get closer to the ideal shape. And finally, the brilliance. First thing that you need to know that the lab rubies is not going to spark. They're not going to have this brilliance as the diamonds. And that's an important thing to know because, for example, if you make in 3 stone engagement ring, and I see it quite often, actually, a lot of jewelers going to put the lab ruby next to the moissanite. Moissanite have the refractive index higher than the natural diamonds. They spark a lot. And the lab rubies on the opposite do not spark that much. So the moissanites on the side is going to overpower the ruby. There's other solutions to make this setting beautiful, and also you have to be mindful of size of all of the stones in this case. Now that we talked about the qualities of the lab rubies, let's talk about where are they coming from. In the case of the natural stones, the region, the place where they mined from, going to affect the hue and the inclusions of the stone as well as the price. In the case of the lab stone, quite similarly, the method, how they were growing, going to affect how do they look, what color and undertone they have, and what kind of inclusions they have inside. Now that we talked about the quality factors, let's talk about where they're coming from. And similarly to the natural rubies, the color, the hue of it, the inclusions are affected by the mine, by the place where they're coming from. In case of the lapstones, it's also important how are they made. It doesn't matter where are they made, but it's important the growth method that was used in order to make those stones. So let's talk about all of them. First one is the flame fusion. This one is the cheapest one, the oldest one, and the most common one as the result. Flame fusion rubies are created by melting fine aluminum oxide powder using the flame. The result? Pure red crystals with a little bit of bubbles inside of them sometimes, which is not really visible when we're talking about 1 or 2 carat stone, but they become visible if you go higher. For me personally, they look too perfect, too synthetic, and I would much prefer to use 2 other methods for the engagement rings. And one of them is the Flux growth. Much more natural looking stones, a little bit more expensive, but it definitely worth it. Flux grown rubies growing slowly in a molded solution form in real crystal structures with the tiny inclusions similar to the natural rubies. So those rubies has those inclusions that are present in a natural rubies, and that's what we are looking for quite often. I personally prefer Flux growing rubies, especially when we're talking about nature inspired designs, when we want to mimic the natural ruby. Those rubies are quite similar to very high quality Mozambique natural stones. So again, if you're looking for the naturally looking stone with the inclusions and everything mimicking the natural ruby, the Flux grow method is the one to go. At the same time, if you're looking to make minimalistic engagement rings and you're looking for the stone with no inclusions whatsoever, the hydrothermal method is going to work the best for you. The hydrothermal method basically mimics the way that rubies are made in earth under high pressure and high temperature. And as a result of that, the inclusions in this stone going to be so small, they're going to be practically invisible for a naked eye. The coolest thing about this method is that the color is going to be perfectly even. It's going to glow identically from the center and from the side. So again, it's not like one method is better than the other. It all depends on your goal and the look you want to achieve. I would personally exclude the flame fusion or vernule method, as sometimes it's called, because it's just not suitable for the task of the engagement ring. It's a good solution when you want to make, let's say, the cocktail ring with the 5 carat ruby or the pendant or something like that, very, very cheaply, as cheaply as possible. When we're talking about the engagement ring, most of the time we're talking about 1 to 2 carat stone. And in this case, if you want to have the inclusion, if you want to have this natural look, go for the Flux growing method. If you're looking for the perfect stone with no inclusion, go for the hydrothermal stone. And one more last thing before we go into the pricing. When you're gonna buy the lab ruby, check that it's actually a lab ruby. It's not a colored moissanite. It's not just a piece of glass or anything like that. The lab ruby is going to be identical in a chemical composition and optical properties to the natural ruby. It's not just a red glass. It's actually the lab stone that mimics the natural one. And finally, let's talk about the prices. It's actually very simple and very friendly to us. Very nice A quality Flux method or hydrothermal ruby going to cost around $300-400 per carat. That means that your engagement ring most likely not going to cost more than $1,500 to $2,000, depending on the side stones, of course, and the design itself. I'm talking about the actual lab rubies. Avoid anything that says ruby simulant or something along those lines. That's not lab rubies. Lab rubies look identical to the natural stones, and not just any rubies. Lab rubies going to mimic very high quality natural rubies that cost about $7,000 to $10,000 and even higher per carat. So at the end of the day, not only you buying the beautiful natural stone with the perfect color, perfect occlusions, everything that glows very beautifully, you also saving a lot of money. And some people might say that the natural stones is a great investment, and it is, but not better, let's say, than putting those those extra money into S&P 500 and keeping them there for 10 years. So I don't think we should talk about those kind of stones from the investment point of view. It's just if you in a lucky position where you can afford a natural stone and you love the feel of it, then of course by any means go for it. It's definitely worth investing into it. But at the same time, if you feel like you over pushing your budget, you have to get into the credit lines or anything like that, I would not recommend to do it. I would go with the lap stone. It's absolutely perfectly fine. And with today's technologies, you're going to get exactly what you're looking for. If you're looking to get a quote for the engagement ring with both natural or the lap stone, click the link below to schedule free consultation with us, and I will walk you through everything. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and comment below if you have any other questions. Thank you so much guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.